I'm gonna go on a limb and say that Spider-Man Brand New Day was the best Spider-Man movie from the Tom Holland adaptations. I believe a large part of this is because of the director switch, Destin Daniel Cretton. I believe he did an amazing job with the action scenes. The camera angles, the camera movements, they really brought you into the fight with Peter. But I want to talk about the parts of the movie, the scenes where life slows down, where we see Peter Parker and his daily life, and we really get an insight into how Peter Parker is feeling simply from the cinematography of it. Peter Parker feels completely alone, despite being in one of the largest cities in the world, New York City. And I've always found the contradictory nature of social life in a big city really interesting because you're surrounded by hundreds of thousands of people, but yet you can still get the sense of loneliness. In large cities such as New York City, London, Tokyo, a lot of people are experiencing this. And what I'm talking about is this feeling of isolation, this phenomenon that is known as urban isolation. In this film, we see so many scenes where Peter Parker feels completely alone. We see him alone in a dark apartment, in the subway, in the bodega. And a lot of us who are living in urban environments can relate to Peter. In large cities such as Los Angeles and New York City, over 40.6 adults report feeling some type of loneliness, and this is according to US Census data. Peter chooses to isolate himself because he loses Aunt May and he doesn't want villains targeting any of his loved ones. You probably don't isolate yourself because of something so intense, but there are reasons for it. When you live in a city, you're walking by so many strangers that have no idea who you are, and to be honest, nobody cares to unless you're some type of celebrity or something. Everybody's caught up in their fast-paced lives. And Peter is desperately in need of social support throughout this film. I mean, he's fighting criminals day and night. And you may not be fighting criminals, but you are working hard. You're commuting to and from work, you're completing your daily responsibilities, and it takes a toll on you. You need somebody to talk to, somebody to just vent to sometimes. So you're already feeling exhausted, plus you pair that with this feeling of alienation from all these strangers that don't care who you are. It really takes a toll on your mental health. Plus, your mind betrays itself whenever it's in a city. Did you know that over 10,000 generations of humans have ever existed? And only maybe 10 generations have existed since industrialization, when we saw so many people moving from their small communities to urban centers in search of jobs, in search of better opportunities. This article by Psychology Today highlights this really well, where we left behind our small, tight-knit communities where we knew everybody, we could recognize everybody. And on top of that, we had our social role that we had to fulfill. Everybody knew what they provided for the village. Compare that to today, living in a city where you can walk around and be surrounded by strangers. You have no clue who they are. You also don't have necessarily a defined obligation to the city. Unless you work for the city council or you're some type of city worker, you no longer have this feeling of you providing something for a village. So these sensations of missing purpose, missing belonging, can cause somebody to become really anxious, especially in today's day and age where we're working so much, and it can push a lot of us towards isolation. Our brains became so accustomed to seeing the same people, to recognizing the same faces. And strangers used to be seen as a potential threat. You know, could they potentially harm the village? Could they potentially take away resources from the village? So nowadays, when we're seeing so many strangers every single day, just swarms of them, our brain is just stranger alert, stranger alert, stranger alert. It's trying to perceive for threat whenever threat is more than likely not present. But it can be hard to train our brains to turn off these alarm bells because it's evolutionary. It used to be something that was favorable for us to have. And everybody needs somebody to talk to sometimes, especially when you're a superhero. There's a scene in the movie where Peter Parker is speaking to the police chief, and he's telling the police chief, hey, I'm working so much, I'm getting these constant headaches, and the chief's like, you're doing way too much, and it really sounds like you need some genuine connection, Peter. And when we don't have that social connection, it can cause devastating effects for us. Last year, the World Health Organization, or WHO, reported that around 871,000 deaths are linked to loneliness every year. I will link their report in the caption in case you want to read more about it, but it talks about the widespread occurrence of loneliness, the causes of it, and ways to address it. But of course, I will summarize a bit here. Social disconnection leaves you without a person to talk to, someone who will lend an ear sometimes. And that can cause you a lot of stress whenever you want to talk to somebody about your problems. Whenever a lot of stress builds up in your body, it can affect a lot of your body systems. For example, let's say you're experiencing chronic stress. This can activate your immune system, which leads to inflammation. And we know that inflammation is a major factor in the development of a lot of diseases. In the movie, we start to see Peter Parker's arachnid DNA be expressed more than his human DNA. This means that more arachnid proteins are being made. Obviously, this is fictional. None of us have arachnid DNA. Yeah. However, this can still apply to us because stress can change how DNA is read in your body. And although we cannot socially isolate humans and then test them, because that wouldn't be super ethical, what we can do is we can look at animals that have similar DNA to us and socially isolate them, then look at those effects. In the article, Long-Term Impacts of Social Isolation and Molecular Underpinnings, we see in this review that the researchers have compiled data from a lot of different studies. In one of the studies, flies were socially isolated, and we see dramatic changes to their immune system DNA. In another study where they socially isolated rodents, we see that the DNA that's coding for their brain structures has been significantly altered, significantly modified. For a long time, it's been known that loneliness can impact your mental health, but now we are starting to see that it also has a significant impact on your physical health as well. And it would be easy to blame it on the phones, to say that it's draining so much time and attention from us. It would be easy to say that, people aren't going out the way they used to because they're so caught up on their phones, they're not going to social events. People aren't looking up from their screens and it's limiting interactions. However, social isolation, urban isolation has always existed. And although the World Health Organization doesn't have a measure of this, it wasn't until the pandemic where we started to see that loneliness was a big issue that they started to track information regarding loneliness and its prevalence in cities. However, one way we can track sentiment of how people felt in these cities is by looking at film. Films have always highlighted the presence of urban isolation in cities. For example, if we look at Asian films from the 90s, we see that in these cities that were being rapidly developed, rapidly populated, a lot of people were feeling isolated and alienated. For example, in 1994 Chungking Express, directed by Wong Kar-wai, it follows 4 people who are lonely in Hong Kong, 2 of which are officers that are trying to get over heartbreak, and they get over the heartbreak after they meet these 2 other women, the 2 other characters. But we don't see them talking to a friend group. We don't see them talking to even a singular friend to try to support them and help them through the heartbreak. I think it really highlights, one, a problem that a lot of people rely on a partner to try to avoid loneliness. That's how a lot of people cope. And 2, it really shows that people were very isolated. People didn't have someone to talk to about their problems. Especially back then when Asia had more of a collectivist culture, which meant that they were doing things for the community, not just for themselves. So when we saw so many people moving away from their families into these high-rises that were filled with strangers, Of course, it was probably a psychological shock for them. It drove a lot of them towards isolation. And a lot of Asian movies in the 90s reflect this sentiment, have this underlying theme of urban isolation. For example, Wong Kar-wai's 1995, Fallen Angels, this is also a theme. Just throughout film history, if we look at different decades, there are always movies that highlight this problem. For example, in the 2000s, we had 2003 Lost in Translation. In the 2010s, we had 2013 Her. In this current decade, the 2020s, we have 2023 Perfect Days. We have 2025 Rental Family. The sole reason I show them is just to demonstrate that urban isolation has always existed. It's not a problem that arose last decade, last year, last month, even yesterday. It's always existed in some form. Just because we lost someone doesn't mean we have to do it alone. Peter says this to Jean to comfort them and remind them that they can't go on through life without relying on anyone. Everyone needs a shoulder to lean on from time to time. I know it can feel intimidating being in a new city where you don't know anyone. However, the sheer amount of people that are in a city statistically makes it a lot more favorable that you'll meet someone. It increases the amount of chance encounters that can occur, so don't take this vast social network for granted. Thanks to the increasing amount of research that has been done on the health effects of loneliness, a lot of cities are starting to take note of its prominence and its severity. They are starting to invest in these social infrastructures located within the city, such as incorporating more green spaces, plazas, parks, building more community centers. One place that I think does it really well, and I'm not trying to be biased because it is my hometown, but in Forward, Texas, in downtown, there's the Sundance Square, which is always hosting all different types of events. For example, they have a salsa night, I would say at least once a month, where you can just come out and dance. It's a really fun event where you can meet strangers, just have fun. So I would advise for you to always be on the lookout for these type of events that your local cities and your local downtowns are hosting. Follow them on social media so you're not missing out. You can't really complain about being lonely if you're not actively trying to put yourself in situations where you could possibly meet people. Individuals are starting to come together and create events that create community. For example, back home, there is Viva Volley Social Club, which is a organization that hosts volleyball events, I think every month, and they promote it on social media. They create an RSVP system for it, one that gets filled really, really quick. We are starting to see individuals kind of just come together and try to shape these social structures that are around them. So it's important for you to come out for these events, because these type of events just don't work unless people come out to them, unless people show up. One last piece of advice that I'll leave you guys with is I would emphasize not trying to find an ideal match for a friend, somebody that checks all your boxes. I believe that if somebody is making time for you, if somebody cares about you, if somebody wants to try to understand you, to listen to you, that is all you could ever ask for out of a friend. Even if they have, maybe very different interests from you, it's always nice to try to learn about the world from somebody else. So yeah, that's the end of the video. Basically, all of the city clips that I filmed were in Chicago. That is not what Kansas City looks like, which is where I'm filming all the talking portions of the video. But yeah, I put a lot of effort into the video. I hope you guys like it. If you're new around here, please subscribe. If you're coming back, make sure to like, please comment, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Destin Daniel Critton. I don't know if that can pick that up, but there's like some song going on. In large cities such as New York City. Okay, Sawman. I'll catch some stars for you. Boom, boom,